Hello and welcome to Nirmal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Amitabh, Taneja, Chairman and Founding Director at Shopping Center Association of India, joining in. Welcome to the show, Mr. Taneja. I think enough has been spoken by now about what has been the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, on the different sectors already. But from here on, let's start the conversation with regards to where Unlock 1.0 goes. Uh, you have a lot of things that have started to open up, especially on on the retail side as well. Though there are a couple of states which have not really opened up completely, but what's the sense that you pick up with Unlock 1.0?
So 8th June is when Unlock 1 happened, and what we've observed is, as of now, we can say around 400 malls have opened across the country.
Mm,
Few states have still not opened.
mm,
Few cities have still not opened. But uh, some of the malls opened on 8th, some opened on 10th, some opened on 12th. Uh, I think they were just trying to make sure that the guidelines are being followed in letter and spirit. Uh, we've seen I would say pandemic is still on. The pandemic has not gone. So looking at the situation, current situation, I think the response is good. The feedback which we are getting across the country is positive. That I would just say that the smaller towns have had a better response than the uh, metropolitan cities. That's been my feedback, and I think which is also true in a way that the smaller towns have less number of
mm,
COVID patients. Uh, I think the smaller towns people are really not really affected by it, but the major cities, Delhi, Bangalore, and Hyderabad, are very seriously affected. So the smaller towns, the behavior in terms of shopping has been more positive than the bigger towns.
right. But any reason for that?
I think, as I said, the number of cases in smaller towns is much lower. If you see the cases numbers is lower, so the overall effect, the psychological effect is much lower.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Right. So with this, I mean, earlier we were looking at the retail industry taking a hit of almost around 90,000 odd crores on the back of the lockdown. Now, how long do you think will it take for the industry to come back to normal?
I think anybody's guess for that matter, but we see the kind of effect these 3 months of lockdown has had on the retail industry.
Mm,
It will need 12 months to 18 months to really recover this whole pain
mm,
in terms of the overall rotation. That's a very serious matter. The lockdown has had a very serious impact on a lot of sectors across retail, across the infrastructure of retail,
mm.
which will take minimum 12 months to 18 months to 2 years to really recover. A lot of categories in retail, especially fashion and other non-essential categories, will have a very long-term effect.
Right. And overall, if you go to see, Mr. Taneja, we've not seen a lot that has happened from the government's end towards retail directly. Yes, availability of loans or availability of liquidity was one thing, but a lot of expectations were there, from the retailers, say with regards to easy financing goals or even bearing some part of the employee cost, because retail as an industry is one of the major industries in terms of employment as well. Now, when you look at that, and now when you look at that, not a lot of direct government support has come in. Do you think there is a possibility of good amount of defaults that could be happening, a good amount of bankruptcies that could be filed, and a loss of employment?
Yes, I believe there will be a lot of loss of employment for
Mm,
sure. If the retailer is doing 50% sales, he won't need those 6 people in that store.
mm,
Uh, He wouldn't need so many people in the back end, because when you say 50% of pre-COVID sales, obviously the infrastructure needed will be much lesser.
Much lesser, correct.
Yes, so the people needed will be much lesser. So obviously there'll be uh, loss of employment. I also see that we must understand where were we pre-COVID days. We were talking about building a 5 trillion economy, the largest consumerism of the world. The next consumer country would be India. Everybody in the world has been saying India is going to be the next consumption country. And I think retail is the front end of consumerism. And most of the retailers were really looking at growing at a very fast pace, because that's the model of retail. Retail means that you cookie stamp the model across all parts of the country. And I think that's what the whole retail industry was working towards. So which means they were highly leveraged. They were really expanding their businesses. And suddenly this hit us, the COVID-19 hit us. And I think that's been a very serious problem, because highly leveraged retail companies, as you see, essential and non-essential retail, non-essential has literally been closed. And uh, you can imagine when a company is not operating for 3 months, uh, the kind of pressures they would have in terms of the overall business model. A lot of people are saying essential retail was open and they are doing well. I don't think they are doing well, because if you really see, the non-essential business is also working on a model where the essential business works on a model where there are a lot of non-essentials within that retail model, which are really the profit centers. Uh,
Correct.
that was not selling. And even if essentials were selling, essentials does not have margins. So I think the overall retail model has been hit very hard, uh, the way we were going. That's been the real problem. And I see a lot of problems coming in the next 3 to 6 months. If this COVID carries on for a while, we will see some serious issues coming in every which way, in terms of job losses, in terms of NPAs, in terms of closure of businesses.
Right. Interesting point that you mentioned as well. Absolutely. With regards to essentials, a lot of, the sustainability with regards to employment, with the rents that they were paying, always came in from the premium segments on the margin side of it, which actually supported. It was the non-essentials which were actually supporting the essentials in terms of business. But from here on, now that you have malls which have started operating, what is the kind of new normal that has been adopted as an SOP, which actually probably is ensuring consumer confidence as well?
So I think if you really look at the SOP, we at Shopping Center Association created a very exhaustive manual of SOPs, also based on a lot of international best practices, which we received from across the world: Dubai, Singapore, China, and also the central government, home ministry, and health and welfare ministry had issued a lot of guidelines. So I think shopping centers and retailers, I would say, both are really following those SOPs in letter and spirit. And the best part is even the consumers are realizing and they're following all the SOPs. uh, what you asked was that what kind of guidelines are we following? I think everything which makes social distancing as a prerequisite,
Mm.
uh, everything which needs to be done to make sure that the consumer feels safe and secure has been done. I can list down, there are lots of ways which we have been able to secure that confidence in the consumer. But let's not forget, I think we've been seeing in the last 2 weeks since the mall has opened, that yes, people are coming to the malls. They realize that malls are very secure spaces, but people are not in a mood to shop. Let's not forget that they are coming to the malls to buy what they need. So my son is studying, or somebody's children are studying in a college, and they need a laptop because everything is gone online. So they're coming to buy a laptop. They're buying electronics. People are buying casual wear clothes. People are buying home products.
Hmm.
because they've been sitting at home for 3 months, so they realize what's missing. So I
Correct.
think uh, shopping is happening in terms of what is needed rather than desire.
Right. So if you have to compare the footfall from earlier to now, by how much have we seen that drop right now?
So I think I would look at it very differently. I would say the footfall has been growing week on week
Correct.
since the time we opened. So we have seen in B and C towns, the footfall has come to almost 50-60% of pre-COVID
Okay.
times, and it has come to 30 to 35% pre-COVID times in metro cities. That's been the feedback which we have received. And the best part is not that we are at 50-60% in B and C towns. I think the conversion ratios are very high, which is
Okay.
very obvious. People are not just coming for window shopping,
Window
people are
shopping.
coming to buy something. So whoever is coming to buy something, which is 80-90% conversion, which is a good sign, which is obvious, which we always realize that that's how it will happen now.
So how long do you think it would take us to get back to that normalcy levels in terms of footfall, and with that maintain that high conversion rate as well?
I wish anybody can answer that question. Uh, how long will it take? It all depends. When do we find the vaccine? When does the customer feel confident in going out? I don't think anybody in the world knows right now when we are getting that vaccine. I think it's very psychological. It's real on ground. People realize that you just don't need to go out just for the sake of going out. I think you just need to go out because you have to earn a living or you need something. I think that's how the consumer is behaving, which is also very fair because that's very obvious. Till the time there is this real outcome where we know that there is a solution to this, or as we read a few days back, that we now know about this COVID much better than what we knew about it in February. So I think as the confidence builds, how to treat it and how to face it uh, medically, I think that's when we will see a bit more confidence in consumer sentiment and consumer buying behavior.
Right. And with this, Mr. Taneja, another important aspect that comes in, especially from the tenant perspective, is as to the kind of rents that they had to bear as a fixed cost, because that's one of the biggest expenses that they had to make. Have developers, have mall owners been okay to renegotiate at least for this period or get down their rates to help the tenants?
I would say that not just okay. I think both are partners in this whole business. There
Hmm.
is no modern retail without shopping centers, and there's no shopping center without modern retail.
Right.
15 years back, you would have never said that any retailer would have had the vision to say we will have 200 stores in India. It is just because of shopping centers that today you can have 200 stores in India. I think both are partners. They need to work together. And we have seen that in the last 2 months that both have really worked this out together and found ways to move on. And uh, let it be rental, let it be giving them a revenue share model, depends. Now, it all depends on what's the retail format, what's the prospect of that retail format, how important is that category to that mall. The malls have to work this out, and the retailers also understand that. I'm very happy with the overall outcome of how this has really unfolded in
Right.
terms of really both of them working together and making sure that whatever needs to be done has to be done.
Right. And with this, as we mentioned earlier as well, you mentioned that it's the smaller towns which are seeing a good bounce back versus the urban areas. If you have to look at retail chains which are focused mainly on urban areas from a market perspective, do you think that their propensity to bounce back is going to be faster, number one? And if you have to see expansion plans of these retail chains, they will right now focus on expanding in the rural markets versus urban markets.
Uh, So what you're saying is, would the modern retailers expand in rural rather than urban? That's what you're saying?
Absolutely, taking the current scenario into consideration from a business perspective.
I think right now, this is my personal view that I think retailers are going to be really consolidating their business. I don't think expansion is right now anybody's top of mind. I think it's more about consolidation, looking at viability of each store, each city, and really making sure that the overall business model is tight and controllable. Because nobody knows how long this uh, pandemic is going to last. I would think that uh, once this thing settles down and we have a solution and people are really back to shopping, uh, I don't think it's about expansion in B towns or C towns. Today, also, the overall penetration of retail is nowhere close to what it should be. So let it be metropolitan cities or B towns or C towns. I think there is opportunity across the country if you really look at beyond COVID in terms of post COVID. Once this is all settled, there is an opportunity across India. India is a very large country. We have only 600 shopping centers across the country, which is nowhere close to anywhere in the world. We have very less number of retail destinations. There are only 2 3 luxury malls. You can imagine with India's consumption and behavior, there is an opportunity to build many more shopping centers and many more retail destinations in the country. So I think once this COVID settles, it is expansion will happen wherever there is an opportunity, wherever there is organized retail spaces created.
Right. And with this, to operate better, to get back to normalcy faster, do you think there is government intervention that could be needed for the sector? And if yes, in what form should it come from the government from here on?
I think it's very important that government finally realizes, and we've been really representing a lot on that, and government needs to finally realize. I think they still do not realize that retail is the front end of the economic development. Every business is connected to retail. They're talking about manufacturing. Every manufacturing activity is connected to retail. It is the consumption story of India. If retail does not work, every sector is going to be affected.
Hmm.
And I think somewhere government needs to really step in and look at this organized modern retail sector and support those businesses which will support other businesses. Retail will support other businesses. So I think employment, I believe that employment is a very big piece in the retail business. A very large employer after agriculture, retail is the largest employer. I think government needs to step in and support employment in retail, help retailers restructure their loans, uh, give them support in terms of carrying this business forward. Uh, it's very essential because finally, every business, every manufacturing, every support business is connected to retail. And somewhere we need to save this retail economy of India.
Absolutely, as you're mentioning that it's really important because the kind of employment it generates, in terms of manufacturing also, as you mentioned, a lot is dependent on retail. For agriculture, from the essential commodity side of it is also completely dependent on retail. So I think in at least in the stimulus package that the government, if they think of something from here on, these should be sectors that need to be looked at as well.
We
But that
always say this in retail that everything produced has to be finally retailed. Uh,
correct.
that's how it is.
Absolutely. I mean, a point well made, Mr. Taneja. It was great having you on the show. Great
Thank
insights. I
you.
hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you
Thank
soon
you.
again. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining.
you.